I hear this pretty regularly that there is such a polarizing. I think polarizing is actually more to the point than political, because some things that are political, if everyone agrees on them, they can easily come into the church, and no one really bats an eye. But because of the polarizing nature of U.S. support for Israel or the Arab-Israeli conflict in general, um, many pastors in particular don't want to bring it up if they're not already very committed to a side on this. And there's a couple reasons why I think that's the case, and then I'll try to get to a solution. But I think this is a really hard one. One is many pastors don't feel equipped to really handle um, the details of the conflict. It can work at a level of um, concepts and theology that don't really touch down on the actual political players, the facts on the ground, the violence, the day to day violence. I mean, you could spend the majority of your news time just reading up on what's happening in Israel Palestine, and that would be a lot to catch up on. So I think many pastors don't feel like they're equipped to be able to talk about something, particularly something that feels more in like the foreign policy realm than something that is sort of in the United States proper. So that's one thing. I think another is that there is such a fixation on this conflict by uh, by people from across the political spectrum who are getting their news and their information on what's happening from literally 1,000 different sources, if you count YouTube videos and explainers and TikTok and all the other news outlets that report on the Middle East. And I know pastors and other congregants just don't know what to do with a lot of that. There's a lot of bad information. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. There's a lot of just false information that is bandied about, and then is deployed in arguments. And it's hard to be able to respond to that in the moment. Um, and so this is a difficult thing because pastors get to disciple their congregants for a certain amount of time every week. But most likely, those congregants are watching a lot more news and videos and so forth than they are spending time listening to their pastor. And so pastors and other leaders have to combat that. I think one way to maybe solve this, or it won't solve it, but maybe to help the situation, is for and this is sound really self-serving, but for churches to bring in people who are maybe experts on some aspect of the conflict, who are really there to try to set a basic ground floor, a foundation of how to talk about the conflict, and then what is actually happening. And I know that can be very contentious. It depends on who this experts, where they work, and what perspective they bring. But I think there's something in value, sort of very important about doing these things in person, where there can be a back and forth, a Q&A, a sense of sort of the audience testing the speaker and understanding if they can trust the speaker or not. I think that's really important. I've certainly benefited from that. And then I think the give and take and the deployment of expertise can really help create a sort of a source of authority on this topic that is different than the ones that are largely online, but also maybe in alternate media outlets as well. I think that can be one thing. I've done some of that work on a local level here in Madison, Wisconsin, and it's a step. It's not the solution, but it's one way to try to create a sense of tackling an issue without moving directly into the polarized politics that issue can engender, particularly when people bring in all the different sources that they're using to interpret that event.